Mississippi again turns down millions of dollars to feed low-income children during summer months to feed low-income kids during summer months. Did I read that right? I don't know. Well, Helen has a story. Helen?
So, well, for another year in a row, Mississippi declined federal aid to feed low-income children during the summer months. I don't know what to say. We reported on this last year. And again, Governor Tate Reeves is worried about some make-up-believe welfare state overfeeding the children of Mississippi. I have said this before about Governor Reeves and others like him, and I will continue to say it. It is some grade A supervillain BS to take food out of the mouths of babes, and let's hope and pray that the people of Mississippi are paying attention and make their opinions known at the ballot box come voting time. This story is from Mississippi Today by Kate Royals and Sophia Padenroth on February 3rd, 2025.
So it's really easy to say that this is a real fucked up story. And I've been holding all of my fucks until I got to the fourth segment. So I'm just letting everybody know right now that my fucks are going to fly. For real though. So Pet Cats, since you're talking about this story, won't you go ahead and take on my first question? With Mississippi's decision to opt out of the federal summer EBT program for the second consecutive year, that have left hundreds of thousands of children without crucial grocery assistance, what do you think are some of the long-term consequences of this decision?
Oh, so many. So this is a real issue, that because when we went over the article again, they interviewed some parents and they were saying that like during the regular school year, their grocery bill is like $500 a month. This adds another $150 to $200 to their grocery bill. And these are families that are already struggling. Now, I want to point out that each meal for each child costs $7. They rejected $38 million to feed children. What the fuck? So, and the reason why is because one, it's racist. And two, Governor Reeves, Mississippi is a very red state, and it is about the constituents. And the long-term consequences of these things is that kids don't eat. And that also causes like a sort of a snowball effect, because either the parent has to give up something of themselves where they're not being well nourished and they give it to their child, which could lead to them not performing as well as work, could lead to them, losing their job because they aren't able to keep their energy levels up, or same thing that, their child that cannot get into like summer programs, they can't feed their kid, and maybe their kid's only eating like one meal a day. And guess what? Growing bodies need food. Weird. I know. So this doesn't have just like, it's super villain shit, but these are like natural consequences of not eating that affect like everyday people. Like, have you ever had a morning where you miss breakfast and then by noon, you're 11, 12 o'clock, you're feeling kind of sluggish, you're feeling kind of gross because you didn't eat breakfast? All right. Now imagine doing that for 90 days. It's disgusting. And I just think that not only the political fallout of this, but also the long-term effects on the actual people that live there. He knows this and he doesn't care, or he's willfully ignorant and doesn't want to listen to facts. So it's just, I'm sorry, this types of shit drumming. And the only reason why I looked this up, because one of McCormick said that kids should get summer jobs. I was like, I wonder what's going on in Mississippi. And I was like, oh, look again. Fuck these people. So
seriously, fuck these people. And it's kind of crazy. I was just looking up a quick, demographic check on Mississippi. even when it comes to supplemental nutrition assistance programs. And according to Gemini, it says that in 2020, 53.1% of non-Hispanic Black people in Mississippi were actually eligible for SNAP, and compared to 19.5% of non-Hispanic white people. So this sounds like one of those stories where the people who happen to be in charge would rather cut off their noses to spite their faces. Because even though that you have over half of your population that's eligible for SNAP benefits, that you're just saying screw them, you still got almost 20% of the constituents that you supposedly care about that's also eligible for SNAP benefits as well, that's not going to get those things that they absolutely need. And as much as I'm not a person that partakes of breakfast, but I know how it is when I don't have my coffee. And boy, I tell you, if I don't get my coffee in the morning, it's going to be HE double hockey sticks to pay. God, it's not pretty. People that ask my family, they be like, "Ooh, did she have her coffee yet?" Stay away from her. So, Thundercat, despite the state opting out of the nonprofit organizations like Springboard to Opportunities have stepped in to actually fill the gap, how sustainable is the approach that what role should nonprofits play in addressing gaps in government services?
That was actually, I started looking for that number for Springboard to Opportunities while Holly was talking, because she said something that made me want to bring it up. As far as how sustainable is it, last summer when Mississippi did the same thing and denied these $38 million, citing the reason that he said, by the way, was that he is rejecting attempts to expand the welfare system, which is basically just to make it clear what he's saying there is, I want to make sure poor people can't get help and that they stay poor. So Springboard to Opportunities is a nonprofit organization that assisted in feeding families across Mississippi. Last summer, when they did the same thing, they served 672 children. In the summer of 2024, there are 324,000 children across the state who would qualify for the program that Mississippi is rejecting. So out of those 324,000, this one nonprofit was able to help 672 of them. Now, if there are another 50,000 nonprofits like that, sure, maybe we can help all the kids in Mississippi. But I don't think that's the case. And the idea of having nonprofit organizations take over this burden and responsibility when there is a government program funded and available and being offered, and all they have to do is be like, yes, we will take advantage of that. And they just chose not to do that. There's no reason they should fall on nonprofits. You almost want to say thank God, right? Thank God to Springboard for Springboard to Opportunities for having helped these children that they helped, but they can only do so much, and there's just more kids that need help. And I don't think it's sustainable.
No, I don't necessarily think it's sustainable either. I mean, you can't put a full burden on feeding the majority of your, constituents on one or two nonprofits. This is not going to work.
On charity, feeding people shouldn't rely on charity. That's
on the churches. That's where they think it should go. They think that people should be able to rely on the churches. And I think we discussed this earlier in the week, that the churches might help that one or two people within their own congregation that are having a hard time, but they generally don't help everybody else. I know there are exceptions to the rule. I used to volunteer at a church on every Thursday night. They had a food pantry where people could come in and pick up free food. So I know there's exceptions to those rules, but in general, churches generally do not help anybody outside of their own congregations.
Right. And I mean, what about and I hate to engage in what about isms, but we have seen this before where churches will give stipulations on who they would help. in for example, if you want housing and we have a shelter for you to come to, yeah, you can come, but you got to attend our services in the morning, in the noon, day, and in the nighttime. You have to pray before all of your meals. And oh, don't forget, you got to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. Nah, you thought I was going to sing. I'm not going to do it. But still, all these different things are going to be some type of stipulation that, you know, a person who's desperate is going to engage in order for them to have, you know, three hots and a cot, right? But, you know, and I would say that if the infrastructure was there to give the full $38 million to the churches in Mississippi so that they can take over the burden, sure, do it. But they're not going to do that because Governor Tate Reeves' whole thing about limiting the welfare state. So, like, you know, okay, I have thoughts on this. I just give me room, guys. Just give me room. I need room. Okay.
Back up. All right.
Back it up. Okay.
Lay it on me, girl. Let's go.
All right. You know, here we go. So every time I hear a right-wing pundit say something like this, like they're trying to limit the welfare state, I always want to ask the question, for who? Because depending on the person that we're talking about when it comes to welfare state, we can name a whole bunch of millionaires and billionaires right now on the federal level that's receiving all types of government contracts and welfare queen type things in order for them to operate and function.
Tax breaks.
Tax breaks, you know, corporate tax breaks, you know, other contracts that's going to be given to them and them alone, you know, incentives in order for them to run, et cetera, et cetera. So if we're giving like big old corporate tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires in order for them to function, and we're, you know, contributing to their welfare state, why can't we do that for people that's actually on the ground, that's actually in these particular enclaves that need the help? That makes no sense to me.
Jobs, something.
Because they won't get anything back from it.
Yeah, and by not feeding these kids, they're keeping their own tax money in their pocket. They're passing the savings onto their own pocket, right? And and let's face it, that's an incentive for greedy people.
Yeah, it is.
And also, let's face it, people get into politics for reasons. And usually those reasons are personal.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, the personal reasons could be in order for them to pat their own pockets and make a name for themselves without necessarily helping anybody. And that's really egregious.
I wasn't going to say it, but, you know, you went there. So
say it. Say it.
So there you go. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember, too, that Mississippi has been underfunding its educational system since like the 1950s.
That's
and
true.
This
Isn't
is
it
true.
Like one of the lowest in the state in the country for education?
I mean, this is true. You can go and look it up. They have seriously underfunded their educational system for like 75 years now. So when Tate does stuff like this, and you would think that, wow, the people in Mississippi would not go for this. Well, they don't understand what's happening because they don't have any education. They haven't been educated enough to understand that they're getting screwed.
Right.
Out of the 50 states, December 30.
Higher than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit Lauren.
I thought that.
It was rating 32 last year, and then in 2022 was 39.
I think that Oklahoma took over as worse. I think
they're at least the 49th.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're 50th yet.
Yeah. So I got this question for all of you guys. You guys. Okay. So guys. You guys. Okay. Guys. So guys, there are neighboring states like Louisiana that actually have successfully implemented similar programs despite initial resistance. What can Mississippi learn from these states about bipartisan collaboration and the political will to tackle hunger and poverty? I'm going to start with you first, Kelly, because you have a cool tie. Then we're going to go with Thundercat, and then we're going to go with Pet Cat.
Can you say that question again?
Yes. Neighboring states like Louisiana have successfully implemented similar programs despite initial resistance. So they've actually said, I guess we can feed people.
Yeah. So what can they do? To help it along? I don't know that there's probably a lot of things they could do. I mean, they could just implement the program and people would enjoy it and want to keep it. I mean, that's the easiest thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to implement it. And another thing they could do, and this is something that is really common in our day and age, is a little bit of PR. Do some TV commercials about how great this program is, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ways to get people to understand and use this program. But I don't think there's an incentive to get people to do that. I don't hear any Republicans saying, wow, I really have a screwed up sense of priorities and maybe I should help some starving children. Maybe I shouldn't make the kids suffer because, well, their parents are poor, because we all know they're just lazy and illiterate drug addicts that couldn't hold a job at the fast food restaurant. So, but, that's not really the kids' fault. I have never heard a Republican say that. Well, I have heard them say the thing about the lazy people, but not helping the kids out, right?
Right.
So I don't even know that that's something that they want to do, honestly. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they really honestly wanted to do it, it'd be easy enough.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, you can't.
Go ahead.
You can't teach empathy. You can't teach to view people as people. If you don't, you won't. You just don't. And it's sort of like explaining the joke. Like if you have to explain, hey, that these children that are dying of starvation in your state every year are actual children that at the beginning of the year they exist. And because of your decisions, at the end of the year, they don't exist anymore because they didn't have enough food. And people just don't, if they don't have to look at it, if they don't have to acknowledge it, they don't have to think about it. And it doesn't have to matter. Mm-hmm. I agree with Kelly.
Yeah, and when you asked Helen in the beginning of the segment, what was the long-term effect? The first thing that went through my head was dead kids.
Yeah.
Listen, I didn't want to be that dark, okay?
That's my job.
I know, yeah. Well, it just seems so simple. Feed children. It seems so easy because all of us are yes, you feed kids because they're if our children are our most precious resource. If you say that, then you should be able to feed them. And especially, I don't know Governor Reeves' personal religion. I don't really fucking care. Because this is just basic human decency to feed children food. And it doesn't even come out of your own state coffer. You're getting it from the federal government. It's so what? And the thing is, though, Kelly and Eli pointed out that he wants his poor people to remain poor. And then anything that goes wrong in the state, he has a nice little scapegoat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. But I don't know how you could have it both ways. You can have your scapegoat and feed kids at the same time, mofo. What the fuck? Sorry. It just makes me so mad when I see people that are in positions of power and privilege and they don't have to think about where their next meal is coming from and literally take the food out of mouth of babes. It is disgusting and terrible. And I hope it gets murder hornets in his pee hole.
In that order. Well,
yeah.
In the infamous words of the famous Louisiana chef, Justin Wilson, wine is like the woman you marry. Marry somebody you don't like? No. You choose a wine that you like. And if you like it, drink it. I guarantee.
I was waiting for that guarantee.
I guarantee, and I guarantee if you want to listen to more nonprofits, you need to go click on over here.